a kind of comfort, I guess, in knowing
Yeah.
what to expect, even if it's something as unsettling as death.
Right.
Period.
Yeah, I think so.
But it's not grim. Leprechauns.
Much more lighthearted.
Yeah.
Let's go there.
So the table describes them as mischievous shoemakers,
Okay.
obsessed with gold,
Of course, of course.
decked out in green and gold,
Obviously.
of course.
Yeah.
And I've always wondered, is there more to them than just that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The modern leprechaun, he's quite a caricature.
Yeah, he is.
But, their roots might actually go back to the Tuatha De Danann,
Okay.
a supernatural race in Irish mythology,
Right.
known for their, craftsmanship and magic.
Okay.
And so that connection, I think it makes me think the gold represents more than just material wealth. Maybe it symbolizes the hidden riches and secrets of the natural world.
So if you catch a leprechaun, don't just ask for gold.
Right, exactly.
Ask it for some ancient wisdom or something.
For the good stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I am fascinated by the marrow.
Oh, interesting, yeah.
These captivating Irish mermaids and mermen.
Right.
They have this alluring blue and silver aura. Kind, yet capable of luring humans to the sea.
Oh, yeah.
It's a bit like the ocean itself, wouldn't you say?
It is, right. Beautiful, mysterious, powerful, and dangerous.
Right.
I think that duality is at the heart of the marrow. Even their appearance, often described with webbed hands and a red cap, which is essential for their transformation. It reinforces their connection to both worlds. And some stories even mention marrow-human romances, right?
Oh, yeah.
These forbidden love affairs that often end tragically.
Yeah, those are always good.
Yeah, classic forbidden love.
Exactly.
All right.
Okay, let's keep swimming through this table.
Let's do it.
We've got the Selkies, the shape-shifting seal folk,
Okay.
cloaked in browns and blue grays, often associated with melancholy and mystery.
Yeah.
What do you think they represent?
Well, to me, the Selkie represents that longing for connection and also that sadness of being caught between worlds. They have to shed their seal skin to become human,
Right.
but they're always drawn back to the sea.
Right.
It makes me think about, the sacrifices we make for love, for belonging, how sometimes transformation comes at a cost.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Speaking of transformation, how about the puka?
Oh, the puka.
Shape-shifting tricksters.
Right.
Black and yellow.
Okay.
And their nature is unpredictable.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to get.
Sometimes helpful, sometimes mischievous.
Right.
What do you make of it?
Well, the puka to me really embodies that chaotic energy of the Fae. They're a reminder that not everything can be controlled
Right.
or predicted. Right. The black and yellow, those are the colors of chaos, of change, of hidden dangers and unexpected surprises.
So kind of like a wild animal.
Yeah,
Beautiful, but potentially dangerous if you don't respect it.
exactly.
That's boundaries.
Yeah, good analogy.
Okay, now these clericons sound a bit more festive.
Okay, all right, let's party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're fun-loving cousins of the leprechauns.
Right, but more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Associated with wine and revelry.
Makes sense.
Dressed in celebratory purples and reds.
I like it.
What sets them apart?
Well, while the leprechaun hoards his gold, the clericon lives in the moment. Bringing a touch of chaos and revelry wherever he goes.
Right.
And I think that difference is reflected in their colors, too.
Okay.
Purple and red. Think about it. They're the colors of celebration, of indulgence, of letting loose.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
They sound like they'd liven up any party.
They do. Maybe a little too much.
Yeah, maybe a little too much.
Right.
Okay, so from the party animals, we move to the Dullahan. And he is definitely not here for a good time.
No.
So he is a chilling, headless horseman
Right. Very.
who brings death, cloaked in stark black and gray.
Right.
Now, his imagery is so powerful.
Yeah.
But what do you think it represents beyond that obvious association with death?
Well, that headless figure, the Dullahan, it's a motif that appears in various mythologies.
Oh, interesting.
And the separation of the head,
Yeah.
the seat of reason, right from the body. It's such a potent image. And in the Dullahan's case, it highlights his role as a relentless force, a personification of fate. And then those colors, again, black and gray, they really reinforce that sense of inevitability or finality.
It's sobering.
It is sobering.
And it also makes you kind of appreciate the preciousness of life.
It does. It really does.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of appreciating things, let's move on to the brownies.
Okay, all right, much nicer.
Yeah, so helpful, household spirits
Right.
associated with the earth and the home.
Cool.
Always working hard,
Yeah, I'm busy.
dressed in brown and tan.
Okay.
They're a far cry from the Dullahan.
They are, yes. Very different vibe.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
Well, I think the brownies represent those unseen forces that keep things running smoothly.
Okay.
You know, those little acts of kindness and service that often go unnoticed.
Right.
They remind us to appreciate the simple things, the comforts of home, the quiet support that sustains us.
Yeah, it's like a reminder to be grateful for those everyday blessings.
Absolutely.
For the people, or in this case, fairies,
Right.
who make our lives a little bit easier.
Yeah, I like that.
What about the will-o'-the-wisp?
Ooh, spooky.
So, misleading lights,
Uh-huh.
often associated with spirits and treasure,
All right.
but dangerous to follow.
You got it.
And they have this pale blue and white glow.
Okay.
Where do you think they fit into all of this?
Well, the will-o'-the-wisp, I think, embodies that idea
So,
of
misleading
false
lights,
hope,
often
of
associated with
temptation,
spirits and treasure.
All right.
Yeah, but
And
dangerous.
think about the color. You got it. Pale blue and white.
Blue and white
They're
glow.
ethereal, otherworldly,
Right.
promising
Where do you think
something
they fit into
alluring,
all
but ultimately deceptive.
Well,
the will-o'-the-wisp,
they remind
I
us
think,
to be
embodies
wary of
that
chasing
idea
after
of
things that
misleading
fall
lights,
too
often associated with spirits and treasure.
All right.
Yeah, but
And
dream
think about the
castle.
color. You got it.
Exactly.
Pale blue and white.
Let's talk about change.
They're
Okay.
ethereal,
These are
otherworldly,
fairy children, right? Walk for
promising
you.
something alluring,
Often
but
frail,
ultimately
resistant
deceptive.
strength.
The will-o'-the-wisp,
They remind
I
us
think,
to be
embodies
wary of
that
chasing
idea
after
of
things that fall
Often associated with spirits and treasure.
Yeah, think about the color.
What kind of anxiety?
Blue and white.
Let's talk about change.
They're
Well,
ethereal, otherworldly,
Fairy children, right? Walk for
promising
you.
something alluring,
Often
but
frail,
ultimately
resistant
deceptive.
And also, they remind us to be wary of
that
chasing
idea
after
of
things that fall
terror of
Often associated with spirits and treasure.
Yeah, think about the color.
What kind of anxiety? Let's talk about change.
They're
Well,
ethereal,
Fairy
otherworldly,
children, right? Walk for
promising something alluring, but
frail,
ultimately deceptive.
and also, they remind us to be wary of chasing after things that fall
Yeah, think about the color.
What kind of anxiety? Let's talk about change.
Well,
Fairy children, to those
promising something alluring, but
frail, very
and also, they remind us to be wary of chasing after things that fall
yeah.
what kind of anxiety? Let's talk about change.
Well,
Fairy children, to those
Promising something alluring, but
and also, they remind us to be wary of chasing after things that fall
yeah.
what kind of anxiety? Let's talk about change.
Well,
Very promising something alluring,
and also, they remind us to be wary of chasing after things
Just to be safe, yeah. Now, in contrast, very clear. Well, we have the very the hardware now less
Yeah, these fires are
Just to be safe,
Red for love and
Now, in
warmth.
contrast, very clear.
Beantide represents that nurturing and protective aspect.
The hardware now
The spirit of home and family. These are where Red for love and
Now, in
warmth.
contrast, very clear.
Beantide represents that nurturing and protective aspect.
The hardware now
The spirit of home and family. These are where Red for love and
Now, in
warmth.
contrast, very clear.
Beantide represents that nurturing and protective aspect.
The hardware now
The spirit of home and family. These are where Red for love and
Now, in
warmth.
contrast, very clear.
Beantide represents that nurturing and protective aspect.
The hardware now
The spirit of home and family. These are where reminder of the importance of those simple domestic comforts, the things that really sustain us.
Yeah, very wholesome. Yeah, she is.
Okay, from the warmth of the hearth, we move to something a bit more stark.
All right.
The Fear Gorta.
Oh, okay.
These are famine spirits whose presence is a test of generosity.
Interesting.
They're dressed in brown and gray,
Okay,
colors of humility and poverty.
right.
What do you think their role was?
Well, the Fear Gorta, I think they serve as a stark reminder of social responsibility. You know, their presence was a test of character,
Okay.
a challenge to act with compassion, to share your resources, even when times were tough.
Right.
And the colors, brown and gray, you know, they strip away any sense of grandeur or luxury,
Yeah.
focusing on those bare necessities of life and the importance of empathy.
It's a powerful message.
It really is, especially in a world where resources were often scarce. You know, it
Right.
really speaks to the importance of community and looking after one another.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, from those reminders of social responsibility,
Uh-huh.
let's move on to the Ganaka.
All right.
These are dangerously charming male fairies known for their enchantments, and they're dressed in white and red.
Interesting combo, yeah.
So what's your take?
Well, he's a fascinating figure,
Okay.
and I think his colors give us some clues. White for innocence,
Oh.
red for desire and passion.
Right.
The Ganankaw really embodies that tempting, alluring side of the fairy realm. The kind that can lead you astray if you're not careful.
Right.
He's a reminder that not all beauty is benevolent,
Yeah.
and that sometimes the most enchanting figures pose the greatest threats.
It's like that fairy tale warning
Yeah.
about not trusting strangers who seem too good to be true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But like fairy version.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, next up we have the Sluicida, and they sound pretty intense.
Read on.
They're described as the spectral cavalcade of the fairy host,
Oh, wow.
often seen as a wild, ethereal force cloaked in dark grays and greens.
Very dramatic.
What kind of impact do you think they had on people's imagination?
Oh, I mean, the Sluicid are a force to be reckoned with. I mean,
Yeah.
imagine hearing that wild hunt thundering through the night.
Yeah.
You know, a harbinger of misfortune or even death. And their colors, dark grays and greens,
Yeah.
they really evoke that untamed power of nature, you know, the kind of wildness that can inspire both awe and terror.
It's like the fairy world's version of a storm.
Yeah.
Something beautiful and destructive all at once.
Exactly.
So definitely not the kind of fairies you want to cross paths with on a dark night.
No, definitely not.
Now, these knockers sound a bit more grounded.
Okay, good.
They're described as mind-dwelling fairies who can help or hinder miners depending on how they're treated.
All right. Interesting.
They're associated with grays and silvers, which, makes sense given their connection to the earth's riches.
Right.
So what do you think?
Well, the knockers are interesting.
Okay.
Because they embody that duality of the fairy realm again.
Yeah.
Right? The potential for both help and harm. The importance of respecting their domain.
Right.
And the colors, gray and silver. They're practical, they're unembellished, reflecting the raw materials of the earth and that hard work of mining.
So it sounds like a you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours kind of deal.
Yeah, I think so. A little bit of a,
Yeah.
be respectful and things will go well.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now for something a bit more woodsy.
Okay, all right.
The Dryads.
Oh, yeah, I like these guys.
Protectors of trees and forests,
Very important.
dressed in greens and browns.
Makes sense.
So that's pretty fitting, right?
It is. The dryad is like the classic nature spirit, a guardian of the forest.
Right.
And their green and brown attire really reflects their connection to the trees, to the earth, to that life force that flows through all living things.
Yeah.
They remind us that nature is sacred, that it deserves our respect and protection.
It's like, a fairy tale version of environmentalism. Yeah.
I like that.
Okay, we're getting near the end of this table, but okay. We still have a few more fascinating fairies to discuss.
Right.
Let's talk about the Furderic.
Oh, yeah, these are fun.
Described as masters of dark humor and unsettling pranks.
Right.
They have an affinity for red and black.
Oh, okay.
So what makes them stand out from the other tricksters we talked about?
Well, the Furderic, I think, represents the darker side of fairy humor. Their pranks can be cruel, even malicious at times, And the colors, red and black,
Yeah.
they hint at that mischievous and somewhat sinister nature.
Right.
They're a reminder that not all fairies are benevolent,
Right.
that there's a darkness to the fairy realm that can be both fascinating and unsettling.
It's a good reminder that the fairy realm, like our own world, has its shadows.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, and last but not least,
All right.
we have the Shiog,
Okay.
described as benevolent fairies who grant wishes
Love it.
or offer help when treated with respect.
Good reminder.
Yeah, and their colors are white and gold, which seems very fitting for wish-granting fairies, wouldn't you say?
It does, yeah. White for purity,
Uh-huh.
gold for generosity and the fulfillment of wishes.
Yeah.
The Shiog represents, I think, the potential for positive interactions
Right.
between humans and fairies.
Yeah.
She's a reminder that kindness and respect can be met with favor,
Right.
that our actions have consequences in the fairy realm,
Yeah.
and that sometimes the greatest rewards come from approaching the unknown with humility and reverence.
That's a hopeful note to end on.
It is.
It makes me think about all the different ways these fairies, they reflect our hopes and fears,
Yeah.
our relationship with nature,
Absolutely.
and the mysteries of the world around us.
They do. And I think we've just scratched the surface of these
Yeah.
fascinating stories.
Right.
There's so much more to explore, so many layers to uncover.
Well, in the next part of our deep dive,
Okay.
let's delve even deeper into some of these specific fairy types
Love it.
and see what else we can uncover about their origins, their roles in Celtic folklore,
Yeah.
and what they can teach us about ourselves and the world around us.
I am ready when you are.
Welcome back, everyone. We are knee-deep in the fairy realm, exploring these captivating Celtic fairies.
Really digging into it now.
Yeah, I am ready to uncover more. How about you?
Oh, absolutely. I think we've laid some groundwork.
Yeah.
But now it's time to really dig into some specific fairy types
Right.
and unearth those fascinating details.
Okay, perfect. Let's start with one that definitely sends shivers down the spine.
All right.
The banshee.
Ooh, spooky.
Her mournful wails are said to foretell death.
Right.
But we talked about how she might also represent a way for communities to process grief.
Right, exactly.
So I'm curious to know, are there specific rituals or beliefs surrounding the banshee that kind of shed more light on her role?
Oh, there are, yeah.
Okay.
In some regions, it was believed that hearing the banshee's wail, it wasn't just a bad omen. It was an invitation to prepare for death, to gather family, to say goodbyes.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like a final act of community
Yeah.
before the spirit moved on.
It adds another layer to her role, doesn't it?
It does.
She's not just this terrifying figure.
Right.
She's also a guide, a part of that natural cycle of life and death.
Right, exactly.
That was so central to the Celtic worldview.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, let's switch gears to somebody a little bit more lighthearted.
Right.
The leprechaun.
Well, much more fun, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we talked about his possible connection to the Tuatha Dé Danann.
We did.
Are there specific myths or stories that kind of illustrate that link?
There are, yeah.
Okay.
Some tales actually describe the leprechaun's incredible skill
Okay.
as a shoemaker, even for the gods,
Wow.
right? And this craftsmanship, I think, really aligns with the Tuatha Dé Danann,
Okay.
who were renowned for their artistry and magic. It's almost as if the leprechaun inherited that connection to creation, to working with the earth and its hidden treasures.
It makes his obsession with gold even more intriguing.
Oh, it totally does.
It's not just about wealth.
Yeah.
It's about the secrets and skills passed down through generations.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, speaking of hidden depths, let's dive back into the world of the Marrow.
Right?
We touched on their, dual nature, that captivating beauty,
Yeah.
their connection to both the human and the underwater realms.
Right.
But what about their appearance? Are there details in the source that really stand out?
There's this fascinating detail about their hands.
Okay.
Some descriptions actually mention webbed fingers, which
Mm.
is a very subtle but powerful visual, I think.
Mhm.
Really emphasizes their connection to the sea, even in human form.
Right.
And then there's that red cap,
Yeah.
absolutely essential for their transformation.
Right.
It's almost like a key, right?
Yeah.
Unlocking their ability to move between worlds.
Oh, I love that imagery.
Yeah.
The red cap as a symbol of power, of choice,
Right?
right? To shift between these different identities.
Exact.
It kind of reminds me of the Selkie, right?
It does, yeah.
Shedding their seal skin to become human.
Yeah, good point.
But with the Selkie, that transformation comes with a sense of melancholy,
Yeah, for sure.
of being caught between worlds.
Yeah.
So are there like specific stories that really capture that feeling?
Oh, there are so many. Yeah.
Okay.
So many tales of Selkies yearning for human connection, falling in love,
Right.
even starting families on land.
Yeah.
But that longing for the sea, for their true home,
Yeah.
it so often leads to tragedy.
Right.
And it's almost like a reminder that some parts of ourselves can never be fully shed, no matter how hard we try to, fit in or belong.
It's a poignant theme, isn't it?
It is. It really is.
That pull of our true nature, even when it leads to heartache.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about a creature that embodies the unpredictable. The puka.
Right, the puka.
We talk about their chaotic energy,
Yeah.
their shape-shifting abilities,
Yeah.
connection to both animals and humans.
Yeah.
So are there tales that illustrate the puka's dual nature, like their capacity for both help and mischief?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
There are stories of puka helping farmers with their harvests,
Okay.
but only if they're treated with respect.
Right.
And then on the other hand,
Yeah.
they're known to lead travelers astray, especially those who boast or disrespect the land.
Right.
It's almost as if they're testing people,
Yeah.
pushing them to see if they're worthy of their aid.
That's a good reminder to be humble, especially when dealing with, forces that we don't fully understand.
For sure, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And speaking of forces that are best approached with caution, let's move on to the Cluricon.
All right, let's do it.
We describe them as the life of the party.
Right. They are.
But is there a darker side to their revelry?
There is, yeah.
Okay.
While the Cluricon brings joy and laughter, he can also bring chaos and destruction.
Right.
If his revelry goes unchecked. Some stories actually depict him as a mischievous spirit who takes things a little too far, leaving a trail of broken belongings and hangovers in his wake.
So maybe it's best to invite him to outdoor parties.
Yeah, I think so.
Give him some space to run wild.
Exactly.
Okay, but let's shift gears again and talk about a figure who definitely inspires a different kind of awe.
Okay.
The Dullahan.
All right, back to the scary stuff.
Right, so we discussed his role as a harbinger of death.
We did.
But are there any, details in the source material that kind of hint at how he chooses his victims?
There are, yeah, it's interesting.
Hey,
Some accounts actually claim that the Dullahan only calls upon those whose time has truly come. So it's not a random act, but a fulfillment of fate.
Wow.
And there's this really chilling detail about his gaze.
Hey.
It said that wherever the Dullahan looks, the grass withers and dies.
Wow.
It's like a stark symbol of his power over life and death.
It's as if he's not just a bringer of death,
Right.
but an embodiment of mortality itself.
Exactly.
It's a sobering thought,
It is.
but also a reminder to live each day to the fullest, right?
Yeah, for sure. Good point.
Okay, so from the Grim Reaper of the fairy realm, let's move on to a creature that represents something far more comforting.
Okay.
The brownie.
All right, the brownie, good guy.
Right, so we discussed their helpful nature.
Yes.
Their connection to the home.
Right.
But what about their appearance? What details really stand out to you?
They're often described as small and wiry,
Okay.
with shaggy brown hair and clothing, almost blending in with the shadows and the natural materials of a traditional home.
Yeah.
It's like they're meant to be unseen,
Right.
working diligently behind the scenes to keep things running smoothly.
There's something very endearing about that image.
There is, yeah.
They're not flashy or demanding, just quietly helpful.
Yeah, just doing their thing.
Right, reminding us to appreciate those unseen forces that support us.
Absolutely.
Okay, speaking of unseen forces, let's talk about the will-o'-the-wisp.
Okay.
We describe them as misleading lights.
Right.
But what about their origins? Are they connected to any specific spirits or beings in Celtic folklore?
Some believe that the will-o'-the-wisp
Yeah.
is the spirit of a restless soul trapped between worlds and unable to find peace. Others see them as mischievous fairies,
Okay.
delighting in leading travelers astray.
Right.
That connection to lost souls, I think, adds a layer of sadness to their story.
It does, yeah. It's like they're not just a danger to avoid,
Right.
but like a reminder of those who are lost and searching,
Yeah.
unable to find their way.
Good point.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's delve into a truly unsettling figure,
Okay.
the changeling.
All right, spooky children.
All right, so we talked about that anxiety surrounding these fairy children swapped for human babies.
We did.
But what about their behavior? Like what What clues did people look for to identify a changeling?
It was believed that changelings often had like an unsettling aura about them, like a coldness or an oldness that didn't match their physical age.
Okay.
You know, they might be sickly or refuse to eat.
Right.
Or exhibit, strange abilities.
That must have been a constant source of worry.
Oh, for sure.
For parents back then.
Absolutely.
That fear of not knowing if your child was truly your own.
Yeah.
It's almost like a horror story come to life, isn't it?
It is.
That fear of the unknown infiltrating the most intimate parts of your life.
Yeah. Scary stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. From that unsettling image, let's shift to the ruler of the fairy realm, the fairy queen.
All right, back to top.
We discussed her power and beauty.
We did.
But what about her court? Are there specific details in our source about the fairies that surround her?
She's often depicted as being surrounded by a court of beautiful and elegant fairies.
Good.
Skilled in music and dance and magic.
Wow.
They embody the allure and enchantment of the fairy realm.
Right.
But they can also be fiercely protective of their queen and her domain.
It's as if they represent the best and the most dangerous aspects of the fairy world. You know?
Right.
The beauty and the power that can be both captivating and destructive.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, in contrast to the fairy queen's grand court, we have the humble bean tie.
Right. Very different vibe.
Right, the hearth keeper.
Yeah.
So we discussed her role as protector of the home.
Right.
But are there any specific customs or traditions associated with her?
There are, yeah. It was believed that leaving offerings of milk or cream near the hearth would appease the bean tie and ensure her continued protection. Some families even left a small stool or chair by the fire for her, like a symbolic gesture of welcome and respect.
It's fascinating how these small acts of kindness, these simple offerings, could create a sense of harmony between the human and the fairy realms.
Absolutely.
Right. It speaks to a worldview where the unseen was just as important as the seen.
For sure.
Okay, speaking of the unseen, let's revisit the Fjörgorta.
Right.
The famine spirits.
Right.
We talked about their role as a test of generosity.
We did.
But are there any specific stories that illustrate their interactions with humans?
There are, yeah.
Okay.
There are tales of the Fjörgorta appearing as beggars or travelers, testing the generosity of those they encounter. And those who offered food and shelter, even in times of scarcity, were rewarded with good fortune. But those who turned them away faced hardship and misfortune.
It's a powerful reminder that generosity and compassion have a ripple effect. Right. In both the seen and unseen worlds.
Absolutely.
Now, let's talk about the Gananka,
a
dangerously charming fairy known for his enchantments.
Right, very tricky.
So we discussed the allure.
Yeah.
And the potential danger he represents.
We did.
Are there any specific stories about his interactions with humans?
Oh, there are tons, yeah.
Okay.
Many tales of the Gananka, seducing mortals with his charm.
Okay.
Promises of love and happiness.
Right.
Only to leave them heartbroken and disillusioned.
Ouch.
It's a cautionary tale, right?
It is.
A reminder that not all that glitters is gold.
Right.
And that following our desires blindly can lead to ruin.
Yeah, it's almost like a fairy tale version of those warnings about not talking to strangers.
Exactly.
But in this case, the stranger is a captivating fairy with a silver tongue.
And a heart of, well, maybe not gold.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Okay, now from matters of the heart, let's move on to something a bit more epic in scale.
All right.
The Slua Side.
Okay, the wild hunt.
Right, we talked about their wild hunt.
Yeah.
But what about their purpose? Why do they ride?
Well, there are different interpretations.
Okay.
Some believe they're gathering souls, escorting the dead to the other world. Others say they're hunting down those who have wronged the fairy realm.
Right.
But whatever their purpose, their appearance is definitely a sign of powerful forces at play.
Right.
Events that are beyond human control.
Yeah, it's a reminder that there are mysteries in this world.
Absolutely.
Right, forces we can't fully comprehend.
Right.
And that sometimes the best we can do is witness their passing with a mix of awe and trepidation.
For sure.
Okay, now let's go from the sweeping grandeur of the wild hunt to the more grounded world of the knockers.
All right, back down to earth.
Right, so we talk about their connection to minds and their duality.
Right.
But how did miners traditionally interact with them?
Well, it was customary for miners to leave offerings of food or tools for the knockers as a way to ensure their goodwill and avoid any mischief. Some miners even claimed to hear the knockers hammering or drilling, like a sign that they were at work and that the mine was productive.
It's like a reminder that even in the most practical workaday settings, there's room for belief and respect.
Totally.
For the unseen.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Okay, now, from the depths of the earth, let's ascend to the heights of the forest.
Okay.
And revisit the dryads.
All right, I like it.
We describe them as protectors of trees.
Yes.
But how did people traditionally show them respect?
Well, it was considered taboo to harm a tree without first asking permission from the dryad who resided within.
Interesting.
Right. And some people even left offerings of flowers or fruits at the base of trees.
Yeah.
Like a gesture of gratitude for the life-giving energy of the forest.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a beautiful way to honor that interconnectedness. Yeah.
Of all living things.
And a reminder that respect for the natural world is essential for harmony and balance.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, now, from those who embody respect for nature, let's turn to the fur derrick.
Okay.
Those masters of dark humor.
Right, the pranksters.
So we talked about their mischievous nature.
You did.
But are there any, specific pranks they're known for?
Oh, the fur derrick's pranks are infamous.
Okay. Like what?
Well, they might steal small objects.
Okay.
Like buttons or combs, just to cause annoyance.
Just to be,
to mess with you.
Right. Or they might lead people astray with confusing direction. Or whisper unsettling things in their ears at night.
Oh, spooky.
Yeah, they like to mess with you a little bit.
So a bit more mischievous than malicious.
Yeah, I would say so.
Just enough to keep you on your toes.
Exactly, a little bit unsettling.
Right. Okay. And finally, let's revisit the Sheog.
All right, good ones to end on.
Yeah, those wish-granting fairies who reward respect with generosity.
Right.
So are there specific ways to gain their favor?
Well, it was believed that approaching the Sheog with humility and a pure heart was key to gaining their favor.
Okay.
Offering gifts of flowers or milk or simply speaking to them with kindness and respect.
Right.
Those things could increase your chances of receiving their blessings.
It's as if they're testing your character.
Right.
Seeing if you're worthy of their gifts.
Exactly.
It's a reminder that true generosity comes from a place of genuine respect and good intentions.
Absolutely. And I think with that, we've explored those fascinating details of these remarkable fairy types.
Right.
Uncovering their unique personalities, their roles in Celtic lore, and the lessons they offer about the human experience.
It's been quite a journey.
Yeah.
And I'm eager to see what final insights we can glean from all of this.
Yeah, me too.
So in the next part, let's step back and consider the broader significance of these beliefs, what they tell us about the Celtic people, and what we can still learn from them today.
Sounds good to me. Let's bring this deep dive to a close and see what treasures we can unearth in those final reflections.
Welcome back to our final segment, exploring these captivating Celtic fairies.
It's been quite a journey.
It has.
Yeah.
So we've met a whole cast of characters. From the terrifying banshee to the helpful brownie.
Right. We really ran the gamut.
We did.
Yeah.
And each with their own stories and significance.
It's amazing how much depth and variety there is in these beliefs.
Yeah.
And how much they reveal about the Celtic worldview.
Absolutely. We've talked a lot about individual fairies, but as we've kind of gone through this whole deep dive, what overarching themes or insights have really struck you?
Well, the connection to nature is inescapable, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, almost every fairy we've talked about is tied to a specific element of the natural world.
Right.
Forests, the sea, even the hearth.
Yeah, it's like the Celts saw the natural world as just teeming with these unseen forces.
Right.
Both benevolent and dangerous.
Exactly. And that connection wasn't just about respecting the environment. It was about understanding that human actions had consequences in the natural realm.
Right, like how mistreating a tree could anger a dryad.
Right, exactly.
Or how offering a gift to a brownie could bring good fortune to your home.
Right, exactly. Give and take.
Yeah, and that ties into another key theme, I think.
Yeah.
The importance of balance and reciprocity.
Right.
These fairies weren't just powerful beings.
Right.
They were forces that needed to be appeased.
Yeah.
Or respected or even outsmarted.
Yeah, for sure. And when you think about how vulnerable people must have felt,
Yeah.
in the face of nature's power.
Right, like a bad harvest.
Right.
Sudden storm. I mean, those things could be devastating.
Absolutely. So these beliefs, these stories, they weren't just fanciful tales.
Right.
They were a way to make sense of the world.
Yeah.
To find a way to coexist with forces beyond human control.
Right. And I think it's fascinating, too, how those beliefs also reflected social values.
Yeah.
Like the Fear Gorda testing generosity, the brownies rewarding hard work.
All right.
It's like these stories, they also serve this practical purpose.
Right.
Of like reminding people how to behave.
Exactly.
How to treat each other.
Yeah, like those cautionary tales.
Right. But there's also an element of escapism, wouldn't you say?
Oh, for sure.
These stories offer like a glimpse into this world of magic and wonder.
Absolutely.
Where anything is possible.
Right. The shape-shifting Selkies, the enchanting marrow.
Right.
The wish-granting Shiog. I mean, come on.
It sparks the imagination.
Yeah.
Right? And it offers this sense of possibility that transcends the ordinary.
And that, I think, is part of the enduring appeal of fairy lore even today. It's a reminder to keep a sense of wonder alive, to acknowledge that mystery and magic that still exist, even if we don't always see it.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious, what fairy resonated most with you?
Oh, that's a good question.
And what do you think that says about your own worldview?
Yeah.
Or your personality?
It's a great question for our listeners to ponder as well.
Yeah.
Perhaps you were drawn to the protective nature of the ARC or the mischievous spirit of the leprechaun.
Maybe you identify with the Selkie's longing for connection.
Right.
Or the brownie's quiet diligence.
Whatever fairy captured your imagination, take a moment to reflect on why.
Right.
What qualities or values do you see reflected in that figure?
And remember, this is just a starting point. Right?
Totally.
The world of Celtic folklore is so vast and so rich.
It is.
Full of these captivating stories and intriguing characters just waiting to be discovered.
So keep exploring.
Yeah.
Keep learning and keep that sense of wonder alive.
Right.
You never know what magic you might find lurking just around the corner.
Or hidden in plain sight.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Celtic fairies.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration. All right, strap in, everyone, because by popular demand, we're diving into the world of Celtic fairies.
Ooh, excellent choice.
And let me tell you, the listener sent in some incredible source material. It's a really detailed table. It lists out all these different types of fairies, like their descriptions, what they look like, what colors they're associated with, even like their personality, their general demeanor. It's really cool.
It's fascinating because it really highlights the sheer variety of these beings that populate Celtic folklore.
Yeah.
They're so connected to nature and to myth and even to like the darker sides of human existence.
Right.
It's really a fascinating tapestry.
It is. It's like this window, I don't know, into how like the Celts saw the world. So, okay.
Yeah.
Let's start with one that I found really interesting, the Eos Sea.
Okay.
Now, they're described as like guardians of the natural world, often connected to ancient burial mounds. And they're shrouded in green and gold.
Makes sense.
What strikes you about them?
Well, I think their portrayal as like a neutral force is really interesting. The AOC are often seen as the original fairies.
Okay.
And they really represent that power of nature that can be both life-giving and incredibly destructive.
Right.
And that duality, that unpredictability is reflected, I think, in a lot of Celtic fairy lore.
Yeah, and I feel like the green and gold really emphasizes that.
Totally.
Because you have the green representing nature, the gold representing magic.
Yeah, but power, right?
Yeah. Like a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, you don't want to mess with them.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so then we have the Banshee.
Right.
And she's definitely leaning towards the destructive side
of
that duality we were talking about.
Little less neutral.
Yeah, dressed in white and gray.
Okay.
Her wails are said to foretell death.
Right.
What kind of role do you think she played in these Celtic communities?
Well, I think the Banshee, she wasn't necessarily seen as evil, more as like a herald or a messenger. And you have to think about it. This was a time before modern medicine.
Yeah.
Death could be very sudden.
Right.
The Banshee's wail, although terrifying, could also provide a warning.
Okay.
A chance to prepare, a chance to say goodbye. And those colors, the white and gray, so connected to mourning and the spirit world.
Yeah.
It's almost like a visual reminder that mortality is always present in everyday life.
Right. That's a good point. It's a bit grim.
It is a little grim, yeah.
But there is a kind of comfort, I guess, in knowing what to expect, even if it's something as unsettling as death.
Right. Yeah, I think so.
But it's not grim. Leprechauns.
All right. Much more lighthearted.
Yeah.
Let's go there.
So the table describes them as mischievous shoemakers.
Okay.
Obsessed with gold.
Of course, of course.
Decked out in green and gold.
Obviously.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I've always wondered, is there more to them than just that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The modern leprechaun, I mean, he's quite a caricature.
Yeah, he is.
But, their roots might actually go back to the Tuatha De Danann, a supernatural race in Irish mythology.
Right.
Known for their, craftsmanship and magic.
Okay.
And so that connection, I think it makes me think the gold represents more than just material wealth. Maybe it symbolizes the hidden riches and secrets of the natural world.
So if you catch a leprechaun, don't just ask for gold.
Right, exactly.
Ask him for some ancient wisdom or something.
For the good stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I am fascinated by the marrow.
Oh, interesting, yeah.
These captivating Irish mermaids and mermen.
Right.
They have this alluring blue and silver aura. Kind, yet capable of luring humans to the sea.
Oh, yeah.
It's a bit like the ocean itself, wouldn't you say?
It is, right. Beautiful, mysterious, powerful, and dangerous.
Right.
I think that duality is at the heart of the marrow. Even their appearance, often described with webbed hands and a red cap, which is essential for their transformation. It reinforces their connection to both worlds. And some stories even mention marrow-human romances, right?
Oh, yeah.
These forbidden love affairs that often end tragically.
Yeah, those are always good.
Yeah, classic forbidden love.
Exactly.
All right.
Okay, let's keep swimming through this table.
Let's do it.
We've got the Selkies, the shape-shifting seal folk,
Okay.
cloaked in browns and blue-grays, often associated with melancholy and mystery.
Yeah.
What do you think they represent?
Well, to me, the Selkie represents that longing for connection and also that sadness of being caught between worlds.
Yeah.
They have to shed their seal skin to become human,
Right.
but they're always drawn back to the sea.
Right.
It makes me think about, the sacrifices we make for love, for belonging, how sometimes transformation comes at a cost.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Speaking of transformation, how about the puka?
Oh, the puka.
Shape-shifting tricksters.
Right.
Black and yellow.
Okay.
And their nature is unpredictable.
Yeah. You never know what you're going to get.
Sometimes helpful, sometimes mischievous.
Right.
What do you make of them?
Well, the puka, to me, really embodies that chaotic energy of the Fae. They're a reminder that not everything can be controlled or predicted. Right. The black and yellow, those are the colors of chaos, of change, of hidden dangers and unexpected surprises.
So kind of like a wild animal.
Yeah.
Beautiful, but potentially dangerous if you don't respect it.
Exactly.
That's boundaries.
Yeah. Good analogy.
Okay, now these Clericons sound a bit more festive.
Okay, all right, let's party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're fun-loving cousins of the leprechauns.
Right, but more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Associated with wine and revelry.
Makes sense.
Dressed in celebratory purples and reds.
I like it.
What sets them apart?
Well, while the leprechaun hoards his gold, the Clericon lives in the moment. Bringing a touch of chaos and revelry wherever he goes.
Right.
And I think that difference is reflected in their colors, too.
Okay.
Purple and red, think about it. They're the colors of celebration, of indulgence, of letting loose.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
They sound like they'd liven up any party.
They do. Maybe a little too much.
Yeah, maybe a little too much.
Right.
Okay, so from the party animals, we move to the Dullahan. And he is definitely not here for a good time.
No, not at all.
So he is a chilling, headless horseman.
Right, very Suki.
Who brings death, cloaked in stark black and gray.
Right.
Now, his imagery is so powerful.
Yeah.
But what do you think it represents beyond that obvious association with death?
Well, that headless figure, the Dullahan, it's a motif that appears in various mythologies.
Oh, interesting.
And the separation of the head,
the
seat of reason, right from the body, it's such a potent image. And in the Dullahan's case, it highlights his role as a relentless force, a personification of fate. And then those colors, again, black and gray, they really reinforce that sense of inevitability, of finality.
It's sobering.
It is sobering.
And it also makes you kind of appreciate the preciousness of life.
It does. It really does.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of appreciating things, let's move on to the brownies.
Okay, all right, much nicer.
Yeah, so helpful household spirits.
Right.
Associated with the earth and the home.
Cool.
Always working hard.
Yeah, I'm busy. Busy.
Dressed in brown and tan.
Okay.
These are a far cry from the Dullahan.
They are, yes. Very different vibe.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
Well, I think the brownies represent those unseen forces that keep things running smoothly.
Okay.
You know, those little acts of kindness and service that often go unnoticed.
Right.
They remind us to appreciate the simple things, you know, the comforts of home, the quiet support that sustains us.
Yeah, it's like a reminder to be grateful for those everyday blessings.
Absolutely.
For the people, or in this case, fairies,
Right.
who make our lives a little bit easier.
Yeah, I like that.
What about the will-o'-the-wisp?
Ooh, spooky.
So, misleading lights, often associated with spirits and treasure,
All right.
but dangerous to follow.
You got it.
And they have this pale blue and white glow.
Okay.
Where do you think they fit into all of this?
Well, the will-o'-the-wisp, I think, embodies that idea of false hope, of temptation leading to danger.
Yeah.
And think about the colors. Pale blue and white.
Yeah.
They're ethereal, otherworldly,
Right.
promising something alluring, but ultimately deceptive. They remind us to be wary of chasing after things that seem too good to be true.
So it's like a cautionary tale
It is.
wrapped in this eerie, captivating glow.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, let's talk about changelings.
Okay.
So these are fairy children swapped for human babies.
Right.
Often frail, possessing strange abilities.
Yeah, a little creepy.
The table says they're pale with a tinge of gold, hinting at their otherworldly nature.
Yeah.
What kind of anxieties do you think they reflect?
Well, I think changelings tap into that primal fear of the unknown and also the vulnerability of children.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine the terror of believing that your child had been replaced by something not quite human,
Oh, yeah.
and that tinge of gold
Yeah.
in their description, it's like it sets them apart. It marks them as different.
Right, it's unsettling.
It's very unsettling.
Yeah. It makes you wonder about the anxieties that, parents must have felt back then.
Oh, for sure.
Especially in a time when, infant mortality was so high.
Absolutely.
Okay, so from anxieties about children,
Uh-huh.
let's move to those who rule over the fairy realm, the fairy queens.
All right, let's go to the top.
Grace, beauty, and power, adorned in gold and white.
Makes sense.
So figures to be both admired and feared, I would say.
Absolutely. I mean, the fairy queen embodies both the allure and the danger of the fairy world.
Right.
She represents the untamed forces of nature, the allure of magic and beauty, but also, the potential for capriciousness and wrath.
Yeah.
Those colors, gold and white, they speak of royalty, of purity, of power beyond human comprehension.
So maybe admire her from a distance.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
And leave a little offering just in case.
That's to be safe, yeah.
Exactly.
Now, in contrast to the fairy queen's aloof majesty, we have the bean tie,
All right.
the hearth keepers who bless homes with warmth and prosperity.
Yes, love that. Very cozy.
Yeah, just in green and red.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, green for abundance,
Uh-huh.
red for love and the warmth of the hearth.
Yeah, that's nice.
The bean tie represents that nurturing and protective aspect of the feminine. The spirit of home and family. She's a reminder of the importance of those simple domestic comforts, the things that really sustain us.
Yeah, very wholesome. Yeah, she is.
Okay, from the warmth of the hearth, we move to something a bit more stark.
All right.
The fear gorta.
Oh, okay.
These are famine spirits whose presence is a test of generosity.
Interesting.
They're dressed in brown and gray,
Okay,
the colors of humility and poverty.
right.
What do you think their role was?
Well, the fear gorta, I think they serve as a stark reminder of social responsibility. Their presence was a test of character,
Okay.
a challenge to act with compassion, to share your resources, even when times were tough.
Right.
And the colors, brown and gray, they strip away any sense of grandeur or luxury,
Yeah.
focusing on those bare necessities of life and the importance of empathy.
It's a powerful message.
It really is, especially in a world where resources were often scarce. It
Right.
really speaks to the importance of community and looking after one another.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, from those reminders of social responsibility,
Uh-huh.
Let's move on to the Ganaka.
All right. Interesting.
These are dangerously charming male fairies known for their enchantments, and they're dressed in white and red.
Interesting combo, yeah.
So what's your take?
Well, he's a fascinating figure.
Okay.
And I think his colors give us some clues. White for innocence,
Oh.
red for desire and passion.
Right.
The Gananka really embodies that tempting, alluring side of the fairy realm. The kind that can lead you astray if you're not careful.
Right.
He's a reminder that not all beauty is benevolent.
Yeah.
And that sometimes the most enchanting figures pose the greatest threats.
It's like that fairy tale warning
about
not trusting strangers who seem too good to be true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But like fairy version.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, next up we have the Sluacidae, and they sound pretty intense.
Read on.
They're described as the spectral cavalcade of the fairy host.
Oh, wow.
Often seen as a wild, ethereal force cloaked in dark grays and greens.
Very dramatic.
What kind of impact do you think they had on people's imagination?
Yeah.
Something beautiful and destructive all at once.
Exactly.
So definitely not the kind of fairies you want to cross paths with on a dark night.
No, definitely.